Welcome back to some more Create Integrated. Now, on the last episode of Create Integrated, I built a massive steam engine setup producing nearly 1 million SU, or more commonly called stress units for Create. But these stress units can be converted into power in Modpack, and I want to use this in order to get a refined storage setup today. Now, as much as I love my beautiful post Pigo and his post office, where I can now, grab items out and manage the storage, it's nice at the beginning. But as we start to progress on, things should expand. And our storage is one of those things that's definitely going to need to expand. Now, how do we actually go about getting into refined storage in this pack? Well, let's pull up the quest book and take a look. So under the main progression tab, as soon as we unlocked brass, we were essentially given the ability to start getting into refined storage. And one of the first things we're going to need is base machine casing. Every block or machine inside of refined storage is going to require a machine casing. And I have themed refined storage to fit almost seamlessly into Create. But you still get all of the beautiful benefits of a complex storage mod like refined storage. All of those logistical benefits. Now, if I'm going to craft these cases at any reasonable speed, I am going to need to carry our power over here that we're generating at 256 RPM, which is the max speed, and get this routed into our area here. And this will also allow me to get rid of these water wheels, which I think would be a pretty good idea. The least water wheels we have, the better overall. These just take up so much space when they're not used, well, in a decoration format. And I think now we are definitely out of the gear ratioing phase. Yeah. So I've come up with these modular designs, and this is pretty cool. So I have a chain conveyor that runs over here. This is how we're going to be sending our power. And I do have range increased on the chain conveyors in this pack, but chain conveyors allow us to send stress kind of wirelessly. It is a wire, but this can actually go underground. It can clip through blocks. But in that case, I like to have these raised up and use them for decoration. You can also use them to travel around with your wrench and also fall into the lava. This was not intended. Oh, I'm definitely gonna die. Okay. Whew. That was a close one. Almost ate it there. Just got to get over here. Whew. Okay. So yeah, everything's fine. Just don't use it to travel over top of your lava. Yeah, thankfully you can choose the directions though. But yes, this design right here is not super well suited for traveling purposes. But what it does offer me is the ability to place a shaft down, encase it, and then have these connectors run through, and we can run a shaft underground. That way we can carry stress anywhere we need. Or we could even carry it to a chain conveyor that can run through a chain network that is hidden underground. So what exactly do I mean by this? Well, let me go ahead and show you here. I'm going to place a shaft that's going to run down the middle of this area. And then this is going to lead into a chain conveyor. The chain conveyor is going to go right here. It's going to get powered up. And then when we click chains on this, we can just place another chain conveyor and chain these all together. And we can just power things as needed anywhere we want. This is the beauty of the chain conveyor that I think kind of gets missed because you do see it a lot like being used as power lines. But running it underground is an entirely different beast. So if I place this right here, and then I connect my chain that I just linked to it, to this, there we go. We now have that rotational energy just right here at our disposal. And so I can take this, bring it up, and then just throw a cog on, and now that is running at 256 RPM now. Let's say I also want to power this. Well, I can do the exact same thing. I have a chain conveyor right here, and I'm just going to link it to another hidden chain conveyor that is underground and just connect up the shafts to the equipment that I want. And same over here. There's a chain conveyor, run that onto this, and now I have a setup for my mill. Like it's literally this easy. And also all the way over here. Like this is where I think the true power of the Create mechanics can come into play. Just giving you the ability to be able to run things over like this. This is fantastic. So I'll take my gearbox, for example, throw that in. And now this bad boy is spinning at 256 RPM. And we just carried it from all the way over there. And I also believe if you do run chain conveyor networks through unloaded chunks, they will still pass that stress unit onto those loaded chunks, as we experienced this whenever I was playing the Just Create SMP. So this can definitely be used as some sort of like stress power line. Now, unfortunately, there is a drawback to chain conveyors, and that is for each chain conveyor placed, it is one of the few things that do actually cost stress units to operate rotationally. So, for example, if every RPM that it is spinning up to, it's going to cost 1 stress unit for. So if this is spinning at 256 RPM, which it currently is, it's going to cost me 256 stress units for every single one placed, which in theory could add up to a lot if you have a small network. But since we have so much stress available to us, this is really not that big of a deal. For example, just to use half of the stress capacity that I'm producing, I would need to place down like 1,728, I believe, of those chain conveyors just to use half of the stress we're currently using. So the crafting is sort of sorted out. There's still a lot more that we're going to have to do, but I should probably start working on how we're going to even generate power. Now, I've already experimented a little bit with generating power. That's how we were able to charge up our building gadget over here in the factory. But I think I want a more seamless solution to this, at least for right now. And I'm thinking right here in the tower might be a good place to set up some sort of battery. And so this power solution using alternators had me thinking. We can turn stress units in, and we can set alternators up on all sides of this to be able to generate power. But unfortunately, we can't like get stress into the gearbox if we do this. Or can we? See, we do have another mod in here called Create Connected, and this mod adds a 6-way gearbox. And so by crafting this, we do get power to be able to place all of these on all sides, and also still have a shaft on the top and bottom to send rotational power to this setup. This right here might be one of the ultimate ways to make a alternator battery or an alternator generator, a generation tower. Really going to need you guys to help me come up with a name for this. So now that I've got that figured out, we also need to figure out how we're sending power, and large connectors are going to be the best way to send power from a source. And these can also accept up to 6 connections. So I'm going to make a few large connectors, kind of skipping the small connector part because I don't think we really have to worry about that too much. But we also need wire, because this is very similar when it comes to like power transfer. It's very similar to how you would do this like in immersive engineering. If you've ever played with that mod, you have actual wires that are going to be connected from point to point, and you are going to have those wires sort of dangling in the air. So I'll throw some gold sheets into the rolling mill because gold is a really, really good conductor in this. So this wire, when turned into a spool, turns into a really high current handling cable. And I think Electrum is the best. I don't honestly know. I haven't been able to test if Electrum and gold are the same, but Electrum is something that you would get after you already have gold. So I would assume that Electrum would be better, but we'll get to Electrum at a later date. And there we go. We have ourselves some gold spools. I'm thinking for right now, something like this to generate power. We put the 6-sided gearbox on here, and then we just take our alternators and place them on here. Okay, or not. Interesting. Why are they breaking? Is this not accepting the 256? Huh. Oh, no, that's very interesting. It accepts it from the top, but from the side, it just breaks the alternator. Weird. This might honestly be a bug. I have no idea why this is not working. So after further inspection, this is definitely not a bug. This is because the 6-way gearbox has different rotational speeds. So whenever I had this turned around, this would have technically be spinning faster than 256. This is spinning just a bit slower. So when it is rotated like this is spinning faster than 256 RPM. So anything would break when connected to it. That is interesting. So it's sort of doing a gear ratioing inside, and definitely not how I expected it to work. All right, so that 6-way gearbox, I mean, we can pretty much discount for right now. That is not going to work. But what about the other one from Creating Case? This is an andesite configurable gearbox. So I assume that I can place the actual shafts on any side. So there's a shaft. There's a shaft here. here, and also here, that seems like it will function. Oh, there we go. That is what I'm looking for. And that seems very, very powerful. And the top is completely covered up. Beautiful. I am learning new things all the time, and I really do enjoy Create Connected. But look at that. This right here is generating power on all sides. So what I should be able to do is now carry power from here by placing these on. By default, the arrow is pointing out. That means it is extracting. So that is its default mode set to pull, I'm assuming when connected to this particular block. And then down here, we can probably connect this up to push in some form or fashion. We need to technically carry it. So this actually has no mode. And I wonder how these clip through blocks. Like, I've not really used this too much. So, does it clip through? It definitely does clip through. It's not horrible, but it does have a very satisfying click. When these are connected together, it just makes a really nice clicking noise. So now power should be easily sent. So I can carry power, I think, from this one over here, assuming that the gold actually carries that far. I hope so. There it goes. And so now we have this wire that should be sending power from here directly to this. It's a little low hanging here, a little dangerous, but it'll work. Thankfully, you don't get shocked from this thing. So beautiful. Now that we have this in place, I think it's time to dabble a little bit in refined storage. Once we get a base refined storage set up, moving things around once we have it set up is very easy because everything's going to go in a single block, basically. All of our items will be stored digitally instead of physically inside of a massive vault, which means I can temporarily set up a storage over here and then later on down the road, I can move it. So it's at this point that you're probably going to understand why this factory makes so much sense that we set up a few episodes ago. And that's because it produces iron, it produces all of the gold that we're probably going to need, and then it also produces nether quartz. And nether quartz is a very important ingredient, especially when we get into refined storage. And also these custom recipes that I've put in place. For example, all of the processors that we're going to be working on, well, they need to be turned into silicon. To be able to be turned into silicon, they have to be smelted. And that process is quartz. And we're also going to need quite a lot of rose quartz, which also uses even more quartz, but a ton of redstone. And all that rose quartz, we'll go ahead and get that processed up. We can get it auto sanded. I don't know why I find this sanding operation really enjoyable, but it is really enjoyable watching this happen this way. Now we're also going to need several other things like quartz enriched iron, which utilizes our iron farm and even more nether quartz. I will tell you, yes, refined storage is very nether quartz hungry. Oh, and new to refined storage 2 specifically, yeah, quartz enriched copper. Now, before we get our processor started up, let's go ahead and get some string placed in here and some slime balls. We're going to mix those together, and these are going to give us the processor bindings that we're going to need. Now, for refined storage, to get the most basic of basics setups up and running, I didn't mean to actually craft that. We are only going to need 3 casings as of right now, and that's because we're going to need a controller. This is how we're going to power all of our refined storage network. We need a crafting grid, which is going to require a casing, and then as of right now, a disk drive, which is going to hold our digital storage. So getting all of these crafted up, not too bad, just requires a couple of our brass machines and lots of redstone. I will say redstone is needed quite a bit, so I definitely recommend using a biome compass to be able to locate where one of those redstone caves may be. And there we go, machine casings for the win. Now, when starting to make the processors, I do recommend making a set amount. If you haven't like rushed into refined storage, this will be a whole lot easier for you. And I recommend making a batch in a set that looks like this. So we'll have 32 of the diamond tier processors, 32 of the gold tier processors, and then we're going to do a 64 and a set of 32 on these. And so we can just set up all of our binders and go ahead and get those applied. And then same for our silicon. So we're going to have our silicon here and have that all set up. And this is how we're going to do all of these operations. So we are also going to need polished quartz. So this is something that you're also going to kind of filter out here. And this does cost a lot of redstone. So like I said, I recommend going through that cave. Now, eventually this can all be automated, but we would have to have redstone automation set up. And like I said, there are several ways that you can technically automate redstone. And a lot of it comes down to, for example, this. This is a really good way of getting redstone by producing crushed raw iron. And how do you get crushed raw iron? Well, you automate the production of crimsite. And crimsite is actually not too bad to do. It does require superheating, but like I said, there are other alternatives down the road that we will get into for superheating specifically. But if you like the idea of automating the blaze cake, it is very doable in this pack, as you can automate Cinderflower. Cinderflower is a renewable source via looping, as you do have the ability to make netherrack. Now, I tried to make the binding process as easy as possible by making sure you're utilizing the same setup that you already had set up for other things. For example, like the andesite mechanisms. So this is exactly the same. So all we have to do for this, place in iron into this, or you can use like hoppers or whatever on the top. Then we also have the redstone, which is going to be pressed onto this. And then we have the binder, which is going to need to be applied to bind it all together. And then last but not least, everything gets pressed. And as soon as we supply it with the silicon, this is going to run through. And there we go. We are now making processors in a beautiful assembly line process. And there's our basic processors. And now for the improved processors. And last but not least, the advanced ones. So once all is said and done, we should have quite a few of the processors ready to go. And I do want to take about half of these of the 32 set, split them in two, because we're going to go through another step for these. So we do have two different cores that we can actually make from basics. One of them also involves quartz, one involves glowstone, and we can use a heating process and a press to be able to make these different cores, which are going to be needed for anything like an exporter and many things in the future. Now, this pressing process, which is called compacting, is going to introduce a new problem that you may not have encountered before with Create. And that is that when there are multiple recipes that are inside of one crafting interface, much as this compacting right here, it can actually do other recipes unless the recipe is defined on the outside of the basin. So this is something that I do want to mention, and it's something important to note about several different things. For example, if you are doing basin recipes, this little filter slot is designed specifically for defining the recipe you want it to actually do. Just as an example, whether it's heated or not, glowstone, it does have a compacting recipe. And this recipe right here will actually take priority most of the time. So to be able to prevent this from actually compacting, whenever we throw in glowstone to be able to do this recipe, we can open up a list filter and just drag the thing we want it to craft into the list filter, make sure it's set to allow, and we can place that list filter over here. And so what this is going to do is make it a lot easier for us to just simply throw in the processor here and also throw in the nether quartz or glowstone and let it go ahead and dump everything in, and then also fire up the blaze burner. As soon as all of the ingredients are in, it's going to go ahead and start crafting those things, those cores that we're actually wanting it to make. And so something that seems very simple can become very complicated if you don't know about this filter slot, right? This is a very important thing. It's one of those quirks with Create. And so now I have my construction cores, and in here, my destruction cores. Look at that. And I'm sorry, Post Piggo, it is about time that you get replaced. But before you do get replaced, I have one special thing I need you to do for me. I might use you in the future. I mean, there's still uses for you. But as of right now, I just want to use you to craft my refined storage system. So yes, Piggo is about to craft his replacement. You've been a good Post Piggo. First thing getting crafted is the controller itself. Then before we can make the crafting grid, we do need a regular grid. Because I don't want a regular grid, I'm going to want the crafting grid. And I'm definitely going to need a place to store all of our disks that we're going to end up making. So a disk drive is the only other thing we really need. But speaking of disks, we do need disks. So to be able to get any of our storage moved over, I definitely need to craft some of those. Now, I know I keep mentioning like digital storage, and that's because I do want to actually make a 64K drive. So to be able to make a 64K drive, we are going to need 27 of the 1K parts, but you may be wondering, Chosen, 64,000 items, well, that's less than the item vault you currently have can hold. And you would be right, except you would also be wrong, because the storage vault actually has limited stack size space in it. So it can only hold so many individual item stacks. Whereas when it says 64,000 items, it means that it can hold 64,000 item stacks as well. And what do I mean by item stacks? Well, this controller is its own item stack, and also this crafting grid is its own item stack. And so is this diamond axe and this sword. Anytime I add items like this into a storage, it's going to take up one of those item stack slots. And a max like 3x3x9 long item vault technically only holds like 1,620 item stacks. But in theory, if it was just like one single item stack, it could hold 103,000 of those items, which is a lot. But I do plan on storing multiple items inside of my storage. But you know, the cool thing is item vaults like this, we can actually connect up directly to our refined storage system and set priorities on it. And we can also filter too to make sure it only holds certain items. So these are still functional and usable, and we'll probably use them in the future. So now back to actually crafting this. Into refined storage, if I add that in here, we're going to pull this up, and we have to keep in mind that to be able to make a 64K storage part, you're going to need 27 of the 1Ks first. So I'll get all of those now requested out, and we just need to craft them all up. And there's our base 27. And then we'll have to keep going through each individual step as we move up to 64K. And that means 9 4Ks, 3 of the 16Ks, and then finally actually crafting up the 64K. Then we need to put it into a housing, and we have ourselves a 64K storage disk. It's at this point that our storage just got a little bit more interesting. So to kind of get this placed in temporarily, I'm going to place my disk drive in here, place my crafting grid facing out, and then on top, I'm just going to put the controller. And this is really all you need for a refined storage system. Now, the controller is going to need some power. So up here, I'm going to place on my connector. I'm going to place it on the top for right now. And I think we also have to configure the side. It looks like it's already configured and already set to push down into the block. And we just need to connect this in to the top. And now our controller has power. And our grid also has power, and there is our grid. And then inside of here, we can place in our storage disk, and now we have room to toss in items. That is so nice. Now, there are some things that I like to set up. For example, whenever we are viewing the resources, I do like to set it to sorting type quantity. And then when we have a certain amount of items, this is also kind of important. Whenever we throw these in here, I like it to sort from like the most to the least. And then with the synchronization mode, I do like it to be synced up with JEI, but set up in two-way mode. So the way I can search up here and also search down here. And as far as changing the size of this, by default, it is pretty nice for like my current resolution. But if you have a different size screen, you can always play around with this until you get it exactly where you want it. But there we go. We now have a place where we can store all of our stuffs and things. But now I've got to get my storage from here over into here. I think for right now, the easiest way for me to do this would be to probably use an interface, which does work very similar to the one from Applied Energistics, if you've ever played with that. But I think for now, I'll just use a regular importer with a stack upgrade. And so that way we'll also have the stack upgrade to play around with. This is going to require a little bit of sugar, but it's really cheap for us to make. Got that all crafted up. I'm just going to glue this entire thing together so I can just pick it up as one central cart contraption, which may seem kind of wild, but it is going to work, and I'm going to be able to pick up the entire storage, everything that is inside of it, so long as it is inside of this cart, and I give it a redstone signal. So, place that in, pick it up, the entire thing is ready to go, and then I will just take the whole storage with me, and I'm just going to carry it all the way over here to our refined storage area. And so, right here is where I want it to go temporarily, so let's just place it directly in. All of our items are still inside of this, even with it turning and all of that fun stuff. And so I will take a cable, run that over here, and then connect an importer, which will kind of work like a hopper to pull items into our storage. And we can already see items flowing in, but it's pretty darn slow. So a way that we can make this go faster is by putting that stack upgrade inside of here, which is going to do a stack at a time, which is a lot faster. And if we put speed upgrades alongside this, it'll go really, really fast. Now in the quest, after completing all of this, we also get a random reward. I happen to get another importer as that reward, or several importers, which is also kind of nice. And now the entire thing is empty. This whole vault is completely empty and everything is in here. Everything that was in that vault has now filled up the 64K with 40,000 items in it. That is how much I had in there, quite a lot. And so I'll just simply remove the glue and I can pick this entire thing up now. And just for nostalgia of what our storage once was, I will go ahead and add the initial storage back. Now that our storage is all digital, I can just pick up our storage like this, and we can use the create wrench to wrench this all up, and our storage disks even stay in our disk drive in this version. So what I was thinking was we currently have all of these powering into this, but what if I set up my refined storage for right now in here? And I just basically, yeah, we keep this here for right now. The controller will be up here, and then all of our connection points, instead of going there, they're going to go into here up in the top. And yeah, we'll have those all routed directly from here into there. Also, this deletes the spool, basically, it seems like afterwards. But yeah, and then we can connect from the top of this all the way over there. And something like this. Yeah, that'll carry too. That's beautiful. Oh, maybe it doesn't delete the spool. Looks like it does give you the spools back. But that's like, it gives you the spool back whenever you use the wire. Aha, I'm seeing how this is all working, and I kind of like it. Now that I've got this basic refined storage set up, I mean, things are really going to start changing. Like, this is a big deal and unlocks a ton of potential. However, there are still a lot of things to automate and a lot of things to get set up before it becomes easier to use, I guess I could say, simply because all of the components required for making all of the logistics for it, well, it just requires a bit more crafting. But thankfully, we can now auto craft because of this, and it is super simple to do, but something that we're going to get into later on, because today we're just simply all out of time. And I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you did, be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and give this video, guys, a huge thumbs up. Now, without further ado, it's time for me to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. And that amazing thanks, well, that is going to go out to Joe Josh. Thank you so much for your amazing support and choosing to support me over on the Discord by becoming a Discord premium member and just supporting my content in one of the best ways possible. Thank you so very much. And guys, I look forward to seeing you all in the next one. And as always, thanks for watching.